Welcome to Cardinal Points podcast. My name is Ed Cardinal, and it is a pleasure to have Jay Soloff on as my guest today. And let me just tell you a little bit about Jay, and also then relay a little bit of a synchronistic story of the first time I met Jay. So Jay's passion and commitment to creating his best life runs long and deep. He lives by the philosophy that inner peace comes from fully accepting yourself. Jay spent over 40 years in the leadership of a global wine industry, but recently had this calling to help people on a larger scale. He wants to support people on their health journey, and I give him a lot of credit for that. I want to talk more about that. Jay guides people through some simple tools for calming the mind, centering the body, and cultivating the power of the breath, which he's going to share with us today. I'm looking forward to that. He owes a debt of gratitude to his teachers, Savitri and Adil Pakriwala, for guiding him along the path of deeper understanding by incorporating the powerful techniques of Heartful Meditation and Purna Yoga. Welcome, Jay.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Let me just relay a quick story about the first time I met Jay. My wife and I were down in New York City. It was quite a few years ago, actually. And my wife, Jude, had a question that she knew Catherine, Jay's wife, would have an answer to. And so she reached out to her. And we found out that they were in New York City that same weekend. So I got to meet Jay for the first time. We went out for dinner, and I've gotten to know him since then. He's an amazing man. I really respect him, and I really admire him for taking the step away from the comfort of something he knew for over 40 years into the unknown. But I know that his heart is in the right place because he wants to help people on their health journey. So again, welcome, Jay. And tell me a little bit about that process for you, Jay. When did that start to percolate within yourself?
Well, like you said, and like I've done, I've been in the wine business over 4 decades, and started out in restaurants, and then became a wine broker, and then ultimately started a winery, which was small in the beginning and not so small anymore, and still exists and running quite strong. But along the way, first of all, Catherine and I decided that we didn't feel like we needed to self-medicate anymore, and we stopped drinking alcohol. So, well, not right away. We stopped drinking wine, and then did cocktails, then stopped doing cocktails, and then went to hard cider, and only this whole process took about a year or so. And then we just said, we don't need this. This isn't what we are. And I've said for many years, what I do is not who I am. But I was living that in private, but not living that in public, because in public, the winery is quite well known. So we were a bit of celebrities, at least in the local Seattle area, well, and elsewhere as well. Winery is very well regarded. So out in public, it's hard to be us. In private, yes. And it just seemed here, we stopped drinking any alcohol. And this has now been about 3 years ago. And it just didn't seem authentic to be part of an industry we weren't even partaking in anymore. And yeah, from rote behavior, you could talk like you were right in it anytime by kind of flipping a switch, but it just didn't feel authentic, and it didn't feel right. And although I was responsible in many ways for big national marketing plans and sales drives and working with distributors and salespeople, that didn't really seem rewarding as it did in the early days, where frankly it was really rewarding to see the results of the activity and the success of the activity. But again, authenticity keeps coming to mind. It just didn't feel like me or us, because Catherine was in the industry as well. So we just decided that really we weren't helping people. If anything, we were enabling people, because so many people do use alcohol to self-medicate, thus get off work, go have a cocktail with the guys, right? Or get off work and go home to your wife and open a bottle of wine right away. And the first thing you do is start sipping on a glass of wine before you even start dinner. It's really self-medicating.
Mm-hmm.
And we also felt like we didn't need that anymore because we were more focused on working with Savitri's Heartful Meditation and Adil's Purna Yoga, that there were other ways to release stress, calm down, take ownership of how you feel. And we decided to focus on that. And that's really become a lifestyle the last several years. And therefore trying to help other people in not just in being healthy or having a healthy lifestyle, reducing stress, which, as you know, Ed, can cause so many other problems in the human mind and body, right? Absolutely. As well as those around you, that it's really important to focus on calming yourself and removing stress, eating well. And so we're more focused now on herbal nutrition and healthy lifestyle counseling. We find that so much more rewarding. It seems to us that the more people we can help with whatever years that we might have left, hopefully many, is going to be our legacy. And sure, there's this business out there that's quite successful, but that's not really the legacy that we want to be proud of or be known for.
Right.
As much as we want to be the legacy we want to leave and what we want to be known for from here on out is how many people we've been able to help.
Awesome. And when did you get introduced to Savitri and Adil?
That was through Miss Catherine, my wife. That was an interesting story. Catherine has been practicing asana and yoga for a while, quite a while. But she knew about this guy, Adil, because one of her instructors used to call him the teacher of teachers. So she knew he existed, but she only knew of this existence verbally. And she happened to find his center and sign in for the mailing list. And she'd been getting that for a couple months. And she knew that Adil did not teach locally anymore, that he had been going all over the world teaching to all these people all over the world, but he had his I call them disciples, that's probably the wrong word, but he had his students that were well trained teaching these classes locally. Well, he offered to teach a 200-hour, was a 1 month intensive, every day for 1 month, to put in 200 hours and get the initial 200-hour certification. And Catherine's sister, another friend, two other friends, and I really encouraged her to do that one night at dinner and brought out the computer and said, do it now, just do it before you change your mind. She signed up. And of course, during that training, she would come home every single night and decompress with me about what happened. So I was in it, whether I was there or not. And I found things that she was telling me really interesting. And maybe that was the turning point for me thinking about making a change in our life, not just mine or Catherine's. So I didn't really know who Savitri was for a while. But as Catherine sort of dragged me along to do certain workshops, I did a workshop in Vancouver, BC, that Adil did, and he announced a trip to India.
Oh boy.
And all my life, college is where this started. All my friends went to India. I never did. All my life, I regretted never having dropped everything after college and going like to India or Europe, like a lot of my friends did. And I turned to Catherine and I said, we're going to India. And she said, oh yeah, right. I said, no, this was something I always wanted to do. We're going to India. And so that was a 13, 14-day trip with Adil in the Himalayas. It was a Ayurvedic and yoga retreat. And that's when I really got to meet not only Adil, but all these other students and teachers of Purna Yoga. And I tell you the truth, I found my community.
Yeah.
Catherine was already a part of it, but
Mhm.
I definitely wanted to focus more on who are all these students and who is this guy? And God, the Himalayas were amazing. And the temples we went to and all the field trips were incredible. So I focused a little more on what was going on. Ultimately, I did take the 200-hour certification, not from Adil, but from one of his students, which Catherine joined me on. And that's when I actually met Savitri for the first time, because she came, we did this in Oregon down in Cannon Beach, and she came toward the end of, it was an every once a month for a full 3-day weekend. I can't remember, for a whole year, which was kind of fun to begin with, going down there and staying. And toward the end, Savitri came and led us all in a weekend of meditation that I was absolutely fascinated in. Played with it a little bit in college, and then sort of lost track of that during my work career. I wished I'd have had that during my whole work career, but nonetheless, that's behind me.
Right.
So, and that's when I met Savitri, and I'd heard about her and all that, and seen her in a couple of events, but didn't really understand the Heartful Meditation until that weekend. So that's what brought us kind of to this place.
Gotcha.
And we've been here ever since, as you well know.
Awesome. And I believe that 200-hour teacher training that Catherine was a part of, I think that's when Catherine met Jude.
That's correct. When
Yes.
Catherine did the originals, when she met Jude. Absolutely.
Yeah. And at that point, Jude was had 2,000-hour
Right.
certified. So she went out for that month for the 200-hour, and she said it was just absolutely amazing. How has the Savitri's Heartful Meditation, how has that impacted you physically, emotionally, energetically?
Well, it's interesting to note that there was a time in my career, in my life, where a doctor diagnosed me as borderline hypertense. I had borderline high blood pressure and borderline high cholesterol, and everything was borderline, borderline this, borderline that. And so for years I was always on some sort of heart healthy diet. But it's interesting. Diet is important, as you know, but there's more to than just diet, and stress creates a lot of this. And I was under an enormous amount of stress during my business career. There's no question. Always there were fires to put out every single day, and goals to execute and accomplish, and all of that. And so it was stressful, but I didn't realize that. I thought that's what fed me. I really believed that I was being fed by all this anxiety to get whatever done needed to be done. Little did I realize, frankly, that this was causing whatever it is that they were discovering in my body. And so the way it's benefited me, and I, again, wish I had known, because it would have been so easy to take 5 minutes out, a couple times a day, just to come back to earth, if you will,
Right.
Or let's put it back into my body,
Exactly.
and into the spirit of my body, relaxed, and then move on. I probably would have accomplished even more than I already did, but I didn't know that, and there's no going back.
Right.
The fact is, I can teach that to people now, and I can help people now, and I certainly have helped myself and Catherine as well.
So you brought up some great points and ways that it's helped you. It helps, meditation helps decrease stress, or cope with stress, or deal with stress. It decreases the heart rate, it decreases blood pressure, it improves sleep. So there's a whole host of physical benefits.
Yeah.
How about on a emotional level? Have you noticed any difference in your demeanor, in your personality?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So let me go back one step and just give you a little story. I was on my way to the dentist Wednesday, and I got behind a truck painting lines on a 2-lane highway. This is a highway you can go 50 miles an hour, but it was going about 15. And this dental office is an hour and 10 minutes away. I planned for that perfectly. I went a way that there wouldn't be traffic, right? And yet I get behind this truck going through the country on this highway. And I just couldn't believe. I said, okay, we'll get around this guy, but it's a double yellow line all the way for about, I'd say 15 miles. And I knew that. Wow. And I thought, how am I going to get around this guy? And the next thing I know, there's one car in front of me and there's a bunch of cars behind me. And I called the dental office and I said, this is the situation. I'm going to be late, but I still want to keep this appointment. And she said, well, as long as you're no more than 10 minutes, otherwise you're going to have to reschedule, and I was already half hour into this trip, right?
Right.
So I was getting a little bit stressed out. And then I realized they take your blood pressure the moment you sit in the dental chair. So I decided, okay, it is time to not be stressed. You can't do anything about this. So I started to do my breathing exercises while I'm driving, because I have the hands on the steering wheel. And I calm myself down, because it only takes a minute of breathing and I'm back to where I want to be, because I consciously know that's where I want to be. But that takes a little practice, of course.
Yeah.
And the next thing I know, the paint truck must have looked in the rearview mirror and saw the 20 cars in line and pulled over. And we all sped by and everyone went right up to 50. And I was about 8 minutes late.
Okay.
And it was not a big deal. But I also realized about another 20 minutes later that I was excited that I was on time, or I could get there within the 10-minute window, but that I was already, got that anxious energy again.
Yeah.
So I started breathing right before I got there. Maybe a mile. And I just kept doing it. And I'll explain that here in a minute. I turned into the parking lot. I didn't run in. I got out of the car the way I would, as if I were early. I walked in and they put me right into the chair, and I closed my eyes and I again did my breathing. They put the cuff on my wrist. I was, I was 130/65, which is perfect.
Yeah.
And I was able to do that because if I had not done that, with what had happened with the truck and being late, I would have gone in there years ago and it would have been, who knows, 150/99, or something, right? And it really does work. It does work, because now once you practice, you become conscious of when you are stressed out or stressed about something little, and you bring yourself back, because I don't want to be there. Because that's not very comfortable. If you feel your body and it's uncomfortable, really all you have to do is go, what am I thinking? Right. Now that was a negative thought. No wonder my body feels bad. So you really have to be able to feel, because you really feel these things more than you think about them, because your brain is firing back and forth, I don't know how many per second thoughts. So you can't really monitor that, but you can feel it. And then you go, what was I just thinking?
Yeah.
Usually it's something negative you were thinking that made you feel bad.
Right.
So if you can learn to feel and then realize that you were thinking, and then it's important to replace those thoughts, of course. I call it thought replacement therapy.
Right.
Just something really lovely, for you, think of Jude, I think of Catherine, or my kids, or whatever,
right.
Or the last vacation, when I was just laying on the beach with my feet in the soil or whatever.
Yeah. That's a great point, that, a lot of people, I believe, have this notion about meditation. It's, sitting in that lotus position, oming, and
I know
they don't think they can do it. But basically, and I read this recently, a great definition of meditation is basically just knowing yourself better, knowing your inner landscape. And when you have that knowing, you do have that awareness when something's not right. There's also, you talked about the breath. That's an important part of, that process, the breath. a focused attention. You talked about that. Also, hopefully, if you can, being in a quiet environment would be important. How is heartful meditation different than some of the other meditations that we know about?
Yeah, well, there's most people are familiar with guided meditation.
Mhm.
So you have a meditation master, and either you're laying down, you're sitting in a chair, or you're in a lotus, whatever, wherever you are, however they position you, or they tell you you feel comfortable being positioned. Then they lead you. You close your eyes, and they lead you into some wonderful place, and it's guided. And those are nice. Those are nice, especially someone who is got a wonderful voice, melodic and just lovely to listen to, gentle, soft, all those things. And but that's what most people are familiar with. But the fact is, you're your own meditation master. Yeah, there are certain techniques that it helps to learn, but more than anything, and you've heard this before, it's practicing consistency.
Absolutely.
And that's true of just about everything. So if you just practice and you're consistent at it, it becomes second nature, and you become really good at anything you practice and you're consistent with.
Okay.
So, and the thing to remember about the breathing, which I know you know, Ed, is that there's your nervous system. There's two sides to your nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is the fight or flight. And that's when you, and you tense up, and, you got a lion coming at you, if you're prehistoric, or a dinosaur or something, and either fight it or you run. And that's the intake. And that's the moment you breathe like that and freeze up, you stimulate that sympathetic nervous system. So it's the exhale that stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the calming side of our nervous system. And the key is always, if you're practicing, is you exhale at least twice as long as you inhale. And sometimes that's not as easy as you think till you practice it, because a lot of people go breathe in and breathe out, totally less time than you're breathing in.
Right.
So it really helps to count it. And let's just say you're going to breathe in till 5, then you want to breathe out till at least 10 or even more. If you can, triple it. And when I first learned that technique, I couldn't get it. I just didn't know how in the world I breathe in 5 and only get to like 6 or 7. And I go, how? And I'm listening to all this air going on around and people sitting around. How are they doing that? Well, you can control your exhale. And think about it as slowly breathing out and actually controlling your lungs to breathe out very slowly. And like I said, practice and consistency. I can usually breathe out at least 3 and sometimes 4 times longer now. I couldn't do that before. I mean, no matter how hard I tried, but then it was the practice and consistency. And when you can breathe out and stimulate your parasympathetic nervous system that way, it's like the veil lifts, everything just falls away. And it's a wonderful feeling. You don't need alcohol, you don't need drugs to get there, and it works the same way.
Absolutely. So you're going to take us through a couple of Savitri's heartful meditation techniques, and
I'd be happy to do that.
And I think as you'll probably explain, it's different in that there's movement involved in the meditation. So maybe why don't you take us through a couple techniques?
Sure. And I will say, you can do this anywhere. You can do this in a car. If someone just cuts you off, and instead of cussing and getting mad, the moment you can pull over, stop. It takes a few minutes. You're going in for a meeting and you're all geared up for some big meeting that you have, whether it's a sales or presentation or just meeting someone you haven't seen in a while. Before you go in, sit and do a little of this mental centering I'm going to show you, because you'll go in as a completely different person, and it takes minutes. Yes, you can take a little longer if you want, but you can do all of this in 5 minutes, in 6 minutes, if you want 10 minutes. or even less, but I'll show you several techniques.
Okay.
First thing, and you've got to remember what you're doing is gathering the senses that are here. This is the place that it doesn't really think. It's just all kinds of thoughts running all over the place. You think in your heart center. You've got to try to really focus on thinking in your heart center. So first of all, let's help you find your heart center. So if you take your thumbs, put them under your arms, take your middle fingers and bring them together, where they come together, that's your heart center right there.
So that's the energetic heart, not the physical heart. Correct.
Correct. The energetic heart.
Yeah.
Really, thank you. Thank you. And so you take your middle finger and just in a clockwise rotation, very gently, no pressure, just gently, and it helps to close your eyes. So I'm going to ask you to close your eyes. So very gently rotate in a clockwise motion and really draw your attention down there to the heart center and really draw all your attention there so that you can focus on the heart center. So then I want you to put your fingertips together on your heart center, all your fingers on your heart center. And as you inhale, expand your hand across. You're opening that heart center on your inhale. And on your exhale, lift your hand, bring your fingers back together, and bring it back to the heart center, doing that as slow as your exhale can be. And you do that, say, 3 times. So again, inhale, spreading the fingers. Exhale, lift your hand, bring your fingers together and back to your heart center, all while you're exhaling. And do that 3 times. So then you're focusing on the exhale and try to extend that exhale as long as you can. And over time, it'll get longer and longer by controlling it. Now with your eyes closed, bring your hands up next to your ears with your fingers pointed up, slightly cupping your hands around your ears. And this is mental centering.
So people might need to have their eyes open first to learn. And
yes, right. So I'll show you, and then I'll ask you to do it and watch what you're doing. So on the inhale, with your hands cupped slightly, inhale, and on the slow exhale, gather your senses and bring your palms together slowly at your forehead or crown chakra, with your fingers together and your palms together. Inhale here. And on the exhale, slowly as you're exhaling, bring your hands down and have your thumbs together at the heart center. Okay, and do that 3 times. So inhale, hands to the side of your head, cupped. Exhale, gathering the senses and compressing all those senses between your palms. Inhale. On the exhale, bring your hands down with your thumbs touching your heart center, and do that 3 times. On the 3rd time, as you bring your hands to your heart center with your thumbs against your heart center, on the inhale, I want you to do heart opening. So on the inhale, you do this, you go, and you're opening your heart to get all the benefits of the light that you're bringing in. And on the exhale, slowly bring them back together at your heart center. And then on the inhale, do this again. And you're opening up the heart again to bring in all the light and the benefit. And exhale, close it again. And you should do that as many times as you like, at least 3. And then when you're finished, very slowly open your eyes, but look in the distance. Don't focus on anything right in front of you. Look as far out as you can. Very slowly open your eyes, not focusing on anything. And then release your hands, palms up, because you're still gathering light, and then see how you feel. So speaking of the breathing exercise, there's a way I do want to share. Some people have difficult sleeping or getting to sleep. Many people do. Catherine jokes that since I've been practicing this every night that I go to bed, within 25 seconds, I'm out. And I always slept well, but I didn't always go to sleep right away. So one of the things that Adil taught me, there was a specific need. I was not sleeping well, and it was really a physical ailment that I had, but I couldn't figure it out and finally did. But nonetheless, it was keeping me from falling asleep. And so and actually Adil taught me to do this on the floor, but then I now transfer it to the bed. As soon as I'm done, cleaning up and getting ready for bed, and I get in to bed, I bend my knees. I put my hands with my left hand over my right hand on my stomach, close my eyes. And Adil had suggested I do this 12 times. Sometimes I don't get to 12. I'm asleep. Many times I do, but then when I straighten out my legs and get my head rested in my pillow, I just fall asleep. So the reason you put your hand on your stomach is that this is not pranayama breathing. This is just breathing. You want to feel your stomach go up and down as you exhale, because this is just breathing, using your diaphragm and your lungs. Excuse me. So the way I do it is I had to be able to count to know I got to 12. So I went, on the inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. On the exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I decided to go to 12 and then 1, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, and then 2. Well, I count to 12 and say 2 now, but I keep exhaling. I just want to make sure it's at least double. And then I just let it go until controlling it, continuing to exhale. I've never counted it, but I'm sure I'm up to about 20 or more by now. And then when I finish that, I go to the next one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3. Again, I count to 12 and say 3, so I know where I am. And then I just keep exhaling. And it's amazing how relaxed. The other thing I've always noticed is when I'm done, and I take my hands and my stomach are hot. I mean, I don't know how that happens, but no matter how cold it is and how cold I am when I get in bed to do this, when I'm done, I am warm. And it's quite comfortable creating your own warmth and calming yourself down, stimulating the parasympathetic nervous system. But you could do that exercise as well, sitting in a car or sitting in a chair, or do that anywhere. If you if you were in an accident, for example, I would just sit there and do that until I got out of the car, as long as it wasn't, a very critical accident, but you know what I mean? It's an amazing way to stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system at any time, anywhere.
Absolutely.
And certainly to help you go to sleep.
Yeah. You were talking about your dentist appointment yesterday. That's a technique I use when you're laying in the dentist chair and you're looking up, and they're getting ready to put the instruments and tools, it's
Yeah.
not it's not comfortable, but I use the breathing techniques to help. And I can
Absolutely.
feel my heart rate reduce, the tension in my muscles
Yep.
start to relax, and it's a much better
It's funny that you
experience.
mentioned that. Years ago, I'd go to the dentist. I would always keep my eyes open. They put sunglasses on you and stuff.
Mhm.
I would keep my eyes open, watching everything. Boy, I just realized I haven't done that in at least the last 2 to 3 years, because the first thing I do is close my eyes,
Mhm.
and I can hear what's going on and I can feel what's going on, but I'm not there. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I am not there. I am somewhere else with my eyes closed. And the next thing I know, they pat me on the shoulder and they go, Jay, you're done. And I'm not sleeping. I'm
Right.
actually not sleeping because I hear everything. And yet I don't know what they're doing or when they're going to be finished. And the next thing I know, it's over.
Mhm.
So yeah, I just realized that.
Yeah. As you know, Jay, my mission is to help men get healthier in all aspects of their life. Is this something that you do on an individual, like virtually? Do you help people through this process of meditation, or what? So what do
Well,
you do?
yeah, I never, I don't really, I'm not really a teacher,
Mhm.
in that if there's a need and I meet somebody, or Catherine and I are talking to someone, yes, we'll share this. If there is not so much, everyone has the need, but if if they're open to it, we don't just jump right into this, because not everyone even wants to understand it or can relate to it. But, we do. I think everything's about conversation.
Right, right.
I mean, life is about conversation.
Mhm.
Everything is about conversation. And what's the saying? You have two ears and one mouth. You should listen twice as much as you
Yeah,
talk,
you
right?
use them proportionally.
And yes, that's the way it goes. So if you're listening to people and you find that they're stressed, I might say, are you open to learning a technique that might help you with that stress?
Mhm.
Virtually no one will say, no, what is it? And and it's up to them.
Mhm.
The techniques are easy to explain, like I just did for you. Um, but it's that consistency that is important. You have to
Absolutely.
practice and you have to be consistent.
Yeah.
You may not find benefit the first time you do this, or the second or third or the fourth. But if you continue, you build that heart's availability to this light that comes in, and getting out of and gathering those senses and bringing them to the heart center. And then after you become, you're not even proficient at it, after you've practiced it enough times, you realize there's a benefit, and then you begin to focus on that. And anything that you really begin to focus on is going to be beneficial, no
Yeah.
matter what it is that you're doing. This.
Right, right. So people can actually go back to this video and just follow along.
Exactly.
Uh, I would say that we went faster
We did.
because of the demonstration, but just you can see what the technique entails, and then just focus on your breathing, like you said, counting your breaths, inhale and then exhaling. Make that longer than the inhale.
I'll show you one time doing this instead of asking you to do it. And I'm going to inhale fully rather than count,
Mhm.
but I'm going to exhale for as long as I can, controlling my exhale. You'll know that because this is the exhale, and then the inhales when it's here, and this will be the other exhale. And I'll do it one time, because I think it's going to take longer than I even think it will, because I'm really going to focus on that.
Mhm.
So I'll do that once for you. So exhale is important.
Yes. Awesome. And I can tell you've been practicing.
I have.
Well, I was teaching a men's yoga class for a few years before the pandemic, and I didn't introduce these techniques right away because these were men that had no experience with yoga, and I think if I introduced meditation right away, it might have scared them away. But eventually, I did, and they absolutely loved it. And one day, one of the students said the technique I liked the most, and he used that work, was touching the heart center. And I was, so grateful that I was able to share these techniques with these men and that they were actually using them. And it becomes a part of your life. It's a lifestyle. Yoga and meditation is not about what you do on your mat or when you're by yourself meditating. It's about taking it out and using it in your daily life for situations when you're stuck behind a truck going to the dentist, or when you're in the dentist chair. So it's, as you said, Jay, it's so important. Just be consistent, just start and try to do it every day until it becomes a healthy habit. And you'll be amazed at the physical benefits and emotional benefits. So stay.
Well, I add one more thing, and that's think about a young child and how curious they are. And unfortunately, throughout our life, many adults lose their curiosity to learn things. And they're no longer teachable because they feel like, I know it, this is the way I do things. And my children are grown. The oldest one's 36, be 37 soon, and the youngest is just turned 31. I have one in between. But I taught Sunday school to volunteer when our oldest was in the first grade. And I stayed in that first grade class with the teacher that I was working with for at least 4 or 5 years. And I happened to tell her that I did a little, and back then I didn't have Savitri's Heartful Meditation techniques, but I was doing a little meditation in other ways, almost all guided meditations. And and this teacher that I worked with knew about it and asked me if I would share that one day with the first graders. And I thought, oh boy, how am I going to get a bunch of 6-year-olds to quiet down, because they were all over the room. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to do this guided meditation. And I had them all sit on the floor and close their eyes. In that era, I didn't know much about using hands, but I just had them put their hands in their lap, right? And I made them think. I asked them to think about some place that was lovely for them, whether it was a vacation with their family or fishing with their mom or dad or playing soccer, whatever made them smile. I want you to think about that place that made you smile. And I want you to keep focusing on that thought. And I just talked to them for a few minutes. And I said, now I'm not going to say anything, but I want you all to, and it was just absolutely quiet, right? I said, I want all of you to just stay in that happy place, and there's not going to be any noise, and all of you just stay there. And I looked over at the other teacher, who was a woman, and her eyes were this big, right? They were just, she smiled at me, and I went, shh. And I went like this to her, and she said, five minutes. And I sat there and I timed it. They were absolutely quiet. They weren't sleeping, that I could tell, right? And then, so 5 minutes later, I said, okay, everyone, don't open your eyes right away. I want you to very slowly open your eyes and just sit there and think about how you feel, and look around at where you are and who's around you. And after that class, and I did that, she asked me to do that not only many times that year, but many times over the next several years, because the kids all quieted down. And after that first class, I remember several little boys and girls came up and said, that was amazing. where did you learn that? I've never done anything like that before in my life. Oh, will you be doing this again? And, and they were all excited.
Mhm.
And that's why we did it again.
Awesome.
So that curiosity and that excitement of a 6-year-old is the kind of curiosity and excitement that will not only carry you delightfully through your adulthood, if not the rest of your life, but in a way that puts that smile you just put on your face.
Right, absolutely. The way you felt about how am I going to get a group of was it first graders to be quiet? That's what I was thinking with these men in the yoga class. How am I going to get these men to quiet their thinking in their mind doing this meditation technique, the mindful meditation, but they absolutely loved it, and you could see the transformation.
Yep.
Well, Jay, I want to thank you again for sharing your knowledge, your experience, your enthusiasm for Heartful Meditation, and
My pleasure.
your enthusiasm for helping others. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. And thank you, Ed. And thank you to all of those who find a benefit in this.
Awesome. Thank you. And if people get benefit from this, please subscribe to my YouTube channel below.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right.
All right, Ed. Thank you.
Take care, Jay. All right. Bye-bye.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.